So it looks like the questions for my 5K Q&A vid have slowed down a bit, and I'm going to start answering them. I got, a lot of questions, and I decided to answer about 50 of them. So, let's get started, shall we? I would invent a Star Wars-style hyperdrive. See, there is a huge amount of universe out there, and I would love to explore it all. Now, I realize that makes me sound like Anakin from The Phantom Menace, but still, it's true. Since I was very small, I wanted to explore the galaxy, the entire universe. I want to see what's out there. So many wonders, so many alien worlds, alien species. I want to have a look. And so I would invent the Star Wars-style hyperdrive to be able to go and explore the galaxy. Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, let's see, what do I like? I like Farscape, Babylon 5, Firefly, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, ElfQuest, the Vorkosigan Saga, Honor Harrington, the Vlad Telter series, Xena, original Battlestar Galactica. I mean, I like a little bit of everything. Hell, I think I've got a box set of Space Above and Beyond kicking around here somewhere. Yeah, so there's a lot that I dig besides Star Wars, and okay, I admit I've softened a little bit on Star Trek hatred. I mean, I do like the new movie, and I like Star Trek Voyager. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I enjoy besides those. Well, the main reason I created Kinera Baxter in the first place, besides being a sci-fi nerd, of course, is that I did not really like the way Star Trek handled space exploration. I mean, obviously, Kinera started out as a bounty hunter, but she's slowly over time becoming more of a space explorer in kind of the Star Trek style, but not quite. And that's something that I find really interesting. I mean, I love the idea of going out and exploring the galaxy. So, would I want Kinera's job? Not necessarily. I'd have a hard time actually killing people as a bounty hunter. I would have a hard time committing violence upon people. But I would want her exploration job. That, to me, sounds wonderful. So, if I were in a sci-fi universe, and if I were in, say, the Kinera-verse, I would want to be like a Star Trek-style explorer, but with Star Wars-style technology. Well, it's a very weird word. I mean, who the hell scuttles around on their butt? What are we, some sort of crab over here? And I certainly don't see how it's related to what the word actually means, namely, rumors or, the talk on the town or whatever. I don't understand that word at all. And of course, those are my favorite kinds of words because, well, I like to point and laugh. You may have noticed. But anyway, yeah, so weird word, definitely. No, I'm not. And the reason is because these things are fiction, and I know they're fiction. There's no reason why what I believe in real life has to intrude upon my pretend time, has to intrude upon my fiction, my stories. I mean, come on, these are wishes. These are fun things, but what they're not is arguments for reality. And as long as I keep that in mind, as long as I know that my fiction is not a reflection of reality, then there's absolutely no reason whatsoever why what I'm convinced about regarding the real world has to be part of my fictional stuff. It's just, you're confusing two completely different things. In reality, I may be more of a Batman and more of a Trekkie. My views on how the world actually works might be more like that. But my wish for how the world works and my preferences in fiction are completely different things. It's just all there is to it. This is not a question I can just straight up answer, because there are different characters in Firefly that I like for completely different reasons. For example, I would have to say that my favorite character in terms of who I'd want to go out and get a beer with or who I'd like to hang out with, that would be Wash. Wash is the funny one, and in most of the groups I hang out in, so am I. And I think we'd really get along. Wash is a cool guy. But it's Kaylee that I want to do slippery naked things with. So, as I say, it's hard to answer because, well, what exactly am I answering? There's no one character that I like better than everybody for multiple different reasons. It's just like, I like this character for that thing, that character for that thing. But it's definitely down to Wash and Kaylee for my absolute favorite, for sure. Nope. And for multiple reasons. Primarily because I prefer the rebellion era. I prefer the fight for freedom against the evil tyrannical empire, which you're not going to find in the Old Republic. And, also, I gotta tell you, I have OD'd on Force users. The Jedi, the Sith, I've had quite enough of them for a while, and I'd really like to see, to see them given a rest, frankly. For another reason, I'm not 100% certain my computer can run it. I have a decent laptop, but it does not have a good enough video card in it. So, hell, I can't even play Mass Effect, and I'd like to, but my computer just plain won't run the damn thing. So, there's no guarantee I can even run this MMORPG. And for another reason, I'm broke. Do you want to pay my subscription fees? Because, if you will, maybe I'll try it. I don't know. But, it seems really unlikely to me that I'm going to play the damn thing. Sorry. Hope for humanity, huh? I don't know. I'm not so sure. Humanity's greatest threats are human greed, human fear, human selfishness, human short-sightedness. I look at what humanity is focusing on now, all these stupid wars, all these quote-unquote moral questions about things like homosexuality and stuff. Nobody realizes that we are orbiting a sun that will eventually die, will eventually go supernova. No one's looking to the stars. No one's looking far enough to the horizon, far enough to the future. Everyone's so concentrated right now on the moment. And very few people are even far-sighted enough to realize that we could fuck up this planet to the point where it's no longer inhabitable. So I really do think that humanity is its own worst enemy, truly. And because of that, I'm not sure that there is any hope. Because humanity would have to grow the fuck up. And that's me, the eternal child, saying that. Before humanity is ever going to be able to actually, progress beyond this caveman level. That's what humanity is. Humans are just scared, fearful, selfish creatures with delusions of civilization. That's all there is to it. So, is there hope for humanity? I don't know. I really don't. I have no faith in the human ability to actually do what's needed, do what's necessary, to actually see what's important. I just don't have that kind of faith. Well, that would have to be the far, far future. There is no part of humanity's past that I particularly want to experience. At least, well, okay, let me put it this way. If I could not go to the far, far future, to a spacefaring future, the only place, time, whatever, I would want to go back to is the 1980s. Because there was just something about the 1980s that I don't know how to describe it. There was a lot of shit going on in the world that was bad, but at the same time, the pop culture was just so full of hope and lightness and fun and imagination. It was a wonderful, wonderful time for fiction. And I would love to go back and experience that all over again. But other than that, the only time I want to go to is a spacefaring future. That's it. Well, while it's true that deism and theism are different things in certain respects, the fact is that both of them have no evidence to support them. And so, therefore, I don't really have to draw distinctions between them at all. Until someone provides me with evidence that one or the other is even likely, let alone true, I don't see any reason to treat them any differently. They're just fairy tales that people have taken too seriously. No, I really don't think so. And for multiple reasons. Number one, who am I? Where am I ever going to get this kind of notice, this kind of recognition, the sort that you would need to have Kinera Baxter made into a motion picture? But even barring that, it really is not a movie story. This would be better told as a television show like Babylon 5. I mean, the story is just way too big to tell in movie form. It would take at least like 8 movies to tell the story I have in mind. So, I really doubt it. But you never know. I mean, someone might see it and go, ooh, I'd like it if someone would. But, I mean, as much as I hope that'll happen, I doubt it. I really doubt it. But here's hoping. Well, it depends entirely on the kind of God. I mean, I sure as fuck wouldn't want to live under the God of the Bible, or the Quran. I mean, those gods are complete dicks. But I'm not sure I'd want to live under, say, the Mayan god either, with all those sacrifices and shit. Nah. And then you've got, like, the Norse or the Greek, Roman, or the Egyptian gods. I mean, most of these gods are, frankly, just unpleasant people. There doesn't seem to be, like, a god of fun. Maybe there's a god of mirth out there. There's probably gods of fiction and storytelling, but, I mean, I don't know. Would this god take an active role in humanity? Would this god take an active role in our lives? Would this god be aloof and just let shit happen? I mean, I don't know. It might be interesting if there was like an active god to whom you could pray and expect honest to goodness miracles. It might make life a lot more interesting. If a god showed up and said, I grant you one wish, and I wish for that hyperdrive I keep talking about, well, that would change a lot of things about our lives and might make things better. But at the same time, if someone said, I wish that my enemies would be crushed, and if I happen to be one of those enemies, well, goodness knows that I can't block the god hammer. It's just gonna land square on my head, and I don't want to live under that kind of risk. It might be better to live in a universe where magic is real, but gods are not. I don't know. But ultimately, I think I'd rather live in a completely mundane universe, a universe with no god. I think it would just be, if not easier, at least safer in a way. More certain. I know that sounds weird, because God has powers and therefore could do just about anything, and thus, a lot of other stuff would be certain, but a god can also be quite random. It's a weird decision. I think ultimately I have to say no. I'd prefer there to be no god. Well, the thing is that Buzz Lightyear is delusional. I mean, sure, he thinks he's a space ranger, but he also is a toy. And I think the toy's natural freezing response is probably so ingrained he doesn't even realize he's doing it. But then again, I could be wrong. Still, it seems to me that delusions don't necessarily have to make sense. By definition, they're not logical. So the fact that he still freezes is not really a flaw or an error. It's more like, look, he's a deludinoid. And that's basically it. Well, as I said in an earlier question, I actually can't play Mass Effect. I do own a copy of it, and I'm holding on to it for when I have a computer that'll actually, run the damn thing. But the video card in my laptop just won't handle it, and I find that quite irritating, quite frustrating, but what you gonna do, right? When I debate with a theist, I'm not trying to piss them off, I'm trying to get through to them. I'm sure there's arguments that I could make that would piss them off, but the truth is that I really want to have an actual, genuine, honest dialogue. But if I am trying to piss them off ever, I think the one thing I would say is, oh yeah? Prove it. Show me evidence, dickhead. But even then, I really do want an honest answer. It's just I know they can't provide one, so it's going to piss them off. But as I say, that's not my goal. My goal is actually to get them to frickin' see what's right in front of their faces that they refuse to see because they're so deluded by their imaginary world. My answer to this question is no. My answer to that question is fuck off. Well, that would be you, big boy. No, just kidding. If I was absolutely forced to choose, because the answer really is nobody, but if I was absolutely forced to choose, I know you're gonna think I'm weird for this, but Ted Raimi, the guy who plays Joxer on Xena, yeah, there's something about him. Don't know what to say. But, again, the answer is really no. Well, she's okay. I mean, she's not quite my type, but one of the things I have learned over the years is that anyone who is my type is someone from whom I should run screaming. It's just that apparently anyone who's my type tends to also be like a junkie or a drunk or massively depressed or something. And, yeah, so Princess Leia is probably someone I should go for, at least the type of person I should go for, because she's not quite my type. And, she's not without sex appeal, especially in that gold bikini. So, but I tend to go for more punk, tank girl types, and like I said, they tend to come with a lot of baggage in the real world. So, I don't know. But yeah, I kind of do find her sexy. I mean, not a lot, she's certainly in my top 25, but probably not my top 10. Well, maybe other people think there are better bands out there, but I don't. The simple fact is that Roxette's music hits me in just the right place and in just the right way. And that's all that's necessary to have a favorite band, I'd say. I mean, there's something about the way they put notes together, the way the songs sound, how they feel, whether they're upbeat or not. Per Gessel has the kind of raspy voice I like in males, and Marie Fredriksson, oh my goodness, that woman could give me an orgasm just by singing. I mean, she has this clear, powerful voice. When she sings, she means it. There's just something about Roxette that does it for me. I don't know what else to say. Well, obviously my Star Wars weapon of choice would be an X-Wing, but barring that, I'd rather have a blaster than a lightsaber, simply because I'd rather the enemy couldn't get all that close to me. I'd rather have some range. But if forced to choose a lightsaber, I would want my lightsaber color to be orange, actually. There's something about an orange lightsaber that, I don't know, I find appealing. I think it's kind of a neat idea. It's a neat look. Now, mind you, that's not one of the standard colors. I mean, usually you see either red or blue or green or purple. Sometimes in the video games you see yellow. But, yeah, generally speaking, you don't see too many lightsabers that aren't one of those colors. But if I could, I think an orange saber would kick ass. I don't know why. It appeals to me. So that would be my choice. Well, the truth is I don't have too many of these. I mean, most of the people I admire are living. If I was forced to choose somebody, well, I guess I'd go with Robert Heinlein, the science fiction author. I mean, yeah, okay, he's not like some military general who's saved a bunch of people. He's not like some sort of leader or liberator or any of that stuff. He's not a great scientist, but he is a science fiction author. And a lot of his books are about how to look at the world. They're about not taking things for granted, which, if you've been watching my videos at all, that's something that's very important to me as well. It was from reading his books that I started to question a lot of things and that I started to realize a lot of things. Okay, here's the thing about him, though. Half of his books are actually really bad. And like a lot of science fiction authors, he doesn't seem to know how to end things very well. It's like a lot of his books seem to just end quite abruptly. It's really weird and frustrating. But at the same time, the rest of his works are pretty good. I mean, the other half of his books are definitely worth reading. So, yeah, that would be the guy I admire the most of anyone not currently alive, I guess. Well, no, for a couple of reasons. Number one, because that was last weekend. Yeah, I know, you asked it before the weekend of the Solstice Parade, I get it. But also, I won't be on a bicycle. I was on my rollerblades. But otherwise, yes. I was, in fact, butt naked in the parade, wearing paint. It was cool. This was my 4th year doing that, and it's always a lot of fun. And yeah, okay, sure, that means I won't be running for president anytime soon, but I wasn't gonna anyway. So, hey, it's all good, clean fun. Well, I was never really part of a religion, so I never really had to deconvert exactly. I mean, I know I've told this story before, but the basic idea is that my parents, well, they sort of tried a little bit of everything while I was growing up. I mean, we tried Unitarianism, we tried this weird sort of Hindu Siddha yoga thing, we tried a few other stuff. I grew up without really having a single religious tradition in my life, a single spirituality. Now, granted, I did have a semi-spiritual side to me. I hadn't yet realized just how unprovable all this stuff was, but I did go searching for, the supernatural a lot. Not necessarily the divine, not necessarily a god, but I certainly went looking for magic all over the place, and I never really found it. And I think ultimately it was that, the not finding it, that brought me to atheism. For a while, I considered myself a kind of pantheist, what they call a naturalistic pantheist. At the time, I called it adeistic pantheism, which is to basically say I was, well, believing in the Force. Sort of. I mean, I thought there was like a magical energy that, I don't know, didn't so much create the universe as pervaded it, and maybe directed it, but unconsciously, like the collective desires of every conscious living being was shaping where the universe was going or something. It was this weird, and it was completely made up, and I know that, right? But it seemed to me that it was completely harmless to go on believing it, so I sort of did. But, then at some point I encountered people like Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, those kind of folks, and more and more, I got to be thinking more empirically, more objectively, and just gradually over time, I said, you know what? I'm believing in bullshit, and I'm just gonna give it up. So, there wasn't really a deconversion. I wasn't part of any, organized religion. I wasn't part of any dogma, that's for sure. I wasn't part of a church. And so it was just giving up magical thinking that really did the trick. And that was fairly easy. That was fairly painless. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was. I mean, there's not much more to it than that. Man, this is a really tough question. I mean, there are so many possibilities out there, so many shows I used to watch. I mean, what did we have? We had Voltron, Mask, Pole Position, Gummy Bears, Muppet Babies, Galaxy High. I remember this one show called Starcom that was really cool. At least I remember it being really cool. It was all spaceships and aliens and laser beams and all the stuff I like. Very, very sort of Star Warsy, right? But I think ultimately what has to win, there was this TV show called The Bionic 6. Now, you may have noticed my name is BionicDance, and, the bionic part does come directly from the Bionic 6. There was just something about that show. I don't know how to explain it. It was this family that ended up getting bionic powers and became superheroes, which was really cool. They had these bracelets and these rings, and they'd put one into the other and shout "Bionics on!" and they'd convert into their bionic form, and they'd have all these powers, and they'd go on adventures and stuff. It was so freaking cool. I loved it. And I actually went so far as to torrent the entire series, and now I'm in the process of putting it on my iPod. But anyway, yeah, so the Bionic 6, for sure. And there was this one character, her name is Rock One, and she is the most 80s character you'll ever meet. She has this blonde 80s hairstyle, and she's always saying that things are like ultra mega fabulous and really, I don't know, you gotta see it. Her name is Meg, but she goes by Rock One when she's in her bionic thing. Each of them have names, like there's Karate One, there's Mother One, there's Sport One, Bionic One is like the father, and he was originally the only one who who was bionic. The family had an accident and they all had to be bionicized to save their lives and stuff. I loved that show. It was so freaking cool. So, yeah, the Bionic 6. If you get a chance, check it out. You might regret it, but if you do, you eat yellow snow. Well, visually speaking, they'd be like the Greys, the Zeta Reticulans, the Whitley Strieber anal probing X-Files, aliens. That's what they would look like. But I think they would actually be a lot like, the Vulcans in, what the hell's that Star Trek movie? First Contact, at the end of it, where they show up and like, cause they detected the warp signature and they're like, oh, hey, a spacefaring species, let's go say hi. They'd be like that, where they'd show up and integrate us into, a spacefaring culture. They wouldn't actually be anal probing aliens. They would just look like them. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's probably what it would be like. At last count, I have 19 stuffed animals. Let me introduce you to some of them. Here is Pan, my plush companion cube from the video game Portal. Yeah. We also have my 2 armadillos. There's Ducati and Cordelia. Now, Cordelia is named after Captain Cordelia Naismith Vorkosigan from the Vorkosigan saga by Lois McMaster Bujold, and not the character from Buffy. Here we have Dana the Fox, and that is an X-Files reference. Dana Scully, Fox Mulder, Dana the Fox. You get the idea. We also have here a beanie baby named Tuffy. Now, due to several childhood incidents, I am terrified of dogs. This was actually given to me by, an acquaintance of mine. And I don't really collect beanie babies either, so I don't know why I have this guy, but whatever. I also have 2 tigers. We have Stewie, who is named after a bunny rabbit from the TV show Mad About You and not the character from Family Guy. We also have Aonin, my big honkin' tiger over here. This is a stuffed animal bought for me by my dad. And Aonin is actually the name of a character for a sci-fi story I was trying to write. Who knows, maybe that character will show back up in Kinera Baxter someday, I don't know. So then we also have this pilot bear, and I've never given him a name, so I don't know. I guess he's just Pilot Bear. On his back, he's got U.S. Airways. I don't know if you can see that. But yeah, so I have a thing about pilots. I just had to have this bear when I saw him. There was just no option. Now, here we have Gizmo from Gremlins. Now, the thing about this is he is actually from like 1983 or some shit. This is an original. They made 2 models, one that squeaked, one that doesn't. This Gizmo does not squeak. But yeah, I've had him since forever. I must have been in like, 2nd grade? I don't know. And then we have Space Bear, my astronaut bear, right? Again, had to have him. Absolutely. Now we've got Gurr from Invader Zim. He's in his robot form, of course. Those eyes are huge. I don't think Gurrs were actually that big. But yeah, so Gurr. We have Opus from Bloom County, right? So, yeah. Here's a bunny that I've had since the 70s, right? I always called it Bedtime Bunny because, let's face it, I was a very unimaginative little kid when it came to names like that. But, yeah, so I've had Bedtime Bunny since, forever. I mean, we're seriously the 70s, okay? Let's see, here we have Schlumpy. Now, Schlumpy is, all floppy and stuff. The thing is, you can rip open his back, and there's this packet of stuff inside, and if you microwave that stuff and then put it back in Schlumpy, he's all warm when you hug him, right? So, yeah, Schlumpy. And here we have Radical Edward from, Cowboy Bebop or whatever. Yeah, so that's another one. When I saw this, had to have it. Absolutely had to have it. This one right here is Zagnar the Destroyer. You can figure out why I named it that. Let's see. Here we have Toast. Just Toast. I don't know. My mom gave me this bear a long time ago. We also have this alien, right? You get the idea. But my absolute favorite stuffed animal of all time is Howie. Most of you are familiar with Howie by now. But I have had him since, forever. I loves me the Howie. He's the bestest. So, yeah, he's always been there for me when no one else has been, and he's very comforting. Now, the ironic part, of course, being that I am terrified of dogs. Absolutely terrified. And yet my favorite stuffed animal is a husky. Figure that one out. But, in any event, yeah, I loves me the Howie. So, anyway, there you go. Well, look, I'm not one of those people who just has this knee-jerk reaction to the prequels. I notice a lot of people seem to really hate them, just sort of almost on general principle, it seems like. But the truth is that I don't think those movies were made for today's audience. I mean, they just weren't. They were made for the people who loved the Star Wars movies back in the day. But, I know a lot of people right now are going, but I loved the Star Wars movies back in the day and I hated the prequels. Yes, but you're not the same person you were back when the originals were new. That's the audience those movies were being made for. I mean, you look at today's audiences, what do people want? What makes people get fired up about a movie? I mean, I hear so many people going, I want an unhappy ending. I don't want the good guys to win. I want the good guys and the bad guys to be ambiguous. I don't want to be able to tell who's who. In fact, I want the bad guys to win. I want, angst and death and destruction and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay, fine. You go and be like emo or goth or whatever the hell it is you want to be. Go be Generation X. But me, I want my Star Wars movies to be the more, uplifting, fun, happy movies that these are. Even the prequels, yeah, even the prequels are more upbeat than most of the movies. I mean, you look at some of the movies from the 90s, for example, you get like Spawn, The Crow, Dark City, all of that stuff, You look at movies from today, you look at the Chronicles of Riddick and stuff. I mean, these are the kinds of movies people want, and they're never gonna get that from Star Wars. They're just not. So, right away, people were primed to not like these movies. And then, of course, George Lucas made the mistake of putting Jar Jar Binks in there. Now, Jar Jar as a character is salvageable. All he had to do was not be a squeaky, high-pitched cartoon character. They could have had a semi-bumbling or at least incompetent sort of sidekick to follow them around. They could have had that without him being a Looney Tunes character. Now, I blame George Lucas's kids. Bear with me on this one, okay? His first child was born during the making of The Empire Strikes Back, too late to actually affect the movie. But then in the next movie, boom, Ewoks, right? And he had two kids who were at least in elementary school, if not junior high, one or the other, during the making of the next set of the next trilogy, the prequels. And we get, Jar Jar Binks, and you listen to that name, Jar Jar Binks. It sounds like a child's name, it sounds like something a child would come up with. I have a feeling he let his kids name that character. Now, I don't know that for sure, but that's my guess. So I really do blame George Lucas's kids. I mean, it happened in the Indiana Jones movies, too. I mean, they got sillier. You look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was a much more serious movie than Temple of Doom or Last Crusade. And those movies were made after Lucas had kids. Now, granted, he was not the director. Spielberg was the director on those movies, but Lucas was the producer. So, I blame his kids. I think George Lucas would have made much better movies had he never spawned. Now, that said, the prequels were not quite what I was expecting, not quite what I was hoping for. But in this way, I was expecting to see the birth of the rebellion. The rebellion was always, to me, the really important part of Star Wars. Like Luke Skywalker and the Force and the Jedi and the Sith and Vader and all of that stuff. To me, that was secondary to the fight for freedom against tyranny and oppression. To me, the part of the Star Wars movies that actually mattered was, the political stuff, the fight for freedom, like I said. So, the fact that the rebellion was really nowhere to be found in the original movies kind of pissed me off. I mean, I was expecting to see, Obi-Wan meets Anakin, and, the Empire is slowly starting to form, and they start fighting against this new Empire that's, slowly eating the Old Republic or whatever, and then somehow Anakin gets taken in by the Emperor. But I was not expecting the Old Republic to last until the last movie. I thought there was going to be more balance between Jedi stuff and Rebellion stuff like there was in the original trilogy. That's the stuff I didn't like about the prequels. Now, I know this sounds, because I've been bitching the whole time, like I don't like the prequels at all, and that is not true. Because they are fun movies. They're just not what I expected. And I think that's the problem most people have with the prequels is defeated expectations. They wanted something they were never going to get out of these movies, and that's why they don't like them. I mean, if they could be taken on their own merits, I think people would be a lot more comfortable with these movies, provided Jar Jar Binks was removed. So, anyway, that's my opinion on the prequels. I do like them, I really do. I watch them all the time. They're good movies. They're just not quite what I wanted, and probably even less what other people wanted. But I don't think that's the fault of the movies, I think that's the fault of the cultural zeitgeist. Well, I had to think about that one long and hard. And ultimately, I came to the decision that yes, Kinera Baxter is straight. No, I thought this up long before you asked the question, but, my first instinct was to make her a lesbian like me, and then I decided, not so much. It just doesn't seem to fit her personality. It doesn't seem to fit who she is. So, yeah, ultimately she is straight. Now, the rest of the crew? That's another story. Yes, I have. And I have to say my favorite is probably Kiki's Delivery Service, although I am quite a fan of Nausicaa, Valley of the Winds. Now, I have a feeling this is not the answer you were looking for. I have a feeling you wanted me to say something like Princess Mononoke, but the truth is I hated Princess Mononoke. Oh, did I ever hate that. Now, it's hard to explain why, but it was just so... I don't know, there was something about it just rubbed me the wrong way. Part of it was the sort of like nature versus technology message that I really hated. Part of it was just, those weird little stone creatures whose heads kept bobbing around. What the fuck was that about? Maybe if I were culturally Japanese, I'd get it, but what the fuck were those? I don't get it, but, and that was Spirited Away one of his? I never saw that one, so I can't comment on it. My Neighbor Totoro was alright, it wasn't quite to my taste, but it was alright. But yeah, so Kiki's Delivery Service or Nausicaa, Valley of the Winds. Well, this one's kind of difficult, because, one of the things I hate about this question is, if I'm gonna marry somebody, I sure as hell hope I get to boff them too. You'd think, right? But if I don't, I thought about it, and I realized that River is just a big honkin' troublemaker. She's, like, the cause of a lot of the misery of the crew, and I would just get rid of her. So, she's on my kill list, is River. Now, as much as I want to boff Kaylee, because she is a babe, she's also someone I would want to marry. There's something about that upbeat attitude that she's always got, that sort of almost childlike innocence that she has of looking at the world, and yet she has some streetwise on her as well. She is so totally someone that I would like to have around for the rest of my life, so she's on my marry list. Now, Zoe is a little bit too much like me in many ways, and in that way, I don't think that I could I don't think I could boff her. It would just be too much like, I don't know, like some sort of weird masturbatory incest in a way. So I can't do that. So I guess I would boff Inara by default. But Inara is so not my type. Just really not. So, yeah, that's what it comes down to, is I would kill River, I would marry Kaylee, I would boff Inara. I really don't. There's a Cafe Press store, and yeah, I've sold an item or two out of there, and that's pretty cool. But the truth is, I ought to move that store to Zazzle where the prices are a bit better. Maybe I'll sell items more. I don't know. I haven't taken the time to do it yet. But there is a link in the crotch bar to that Cafe Press store. I mean, if you want me to make money, buy some stuff. But the truth is, I mean, I haven't really been pushing it because I make the webcomic because it's a story that's in my head that I need to get out there. It's a story I really desperately want to tell. It's important to me. And I think it means something, and it's worth telling. I'm not doing it for the money. So, no, I don't make money off the webcomic. Kind of wish I did, but it's not the point. I really doubt it. The kind of technology necessary to move the Earth, I think would be really, really difficult to achieve, and I'm not even sure if it would do any good. I think it's much more likely that humanity will develop some sort of interstellar drive or some sort of, generation ship or the ability to freeze oneself for an interstellar journey or something to escape the sun's destruction and get to a different habitable planet. I think that's much, much more likely. I have no attachment to the human genome. I really don't. I figure, provided that we keep in mind that we should not create anything that could kill us, be it a virus or some sort of superhuman, and provided we keep in mind that we are going to be creating new people here, and it might be best if we, left them able to reproduce or left them able to actually interact with human society on some sort of normal basis, provided all of that is taken into account, tinker away, I say. Well, here's the thing. I believe in rabid, brutal honesty. Okay? That means that if you see something in the world that you don't like, but, you can't deny that it's true, well, then I say you have to run with what you see rather than what you want. So these people who continue to believe in God, despite, having a respect for science, it's obvious they're engaging in wishful thinking. Now, I understand the mentality. I've been there. I mean, anyone who's watched my videos for any length of time knows that I would love it, if we lived in a Star Wars-style universe, or if I had, Superman's power of flight. But I have to admit that these things do not exist. They're not real. Okay? Or if they are, show me evidence, because I would love it to be so. But I'm not going to try to claim that it's so when it isn't. These people are doing that, and I cannot agree with their position. I just can't. Yes, they should be made to see that there is no reason to believe what they're believing, that their belief is completely unjustified. Well, of course, in a bad situation, the first thing I reach for is Howie. But, you might not be talking about an actual physical object, so with that in mind, well, the thing is, I have a very strong sense of self-preservation, and I'm fairly high-strung. If anyone's ever, tapped me on my shoulder from behind and I didn't know they were there, they'll likely see me hit the ceiling hissing and spitting. I mean, that's just how it is. I mean, call me paranoid if you like, but I'm just, like I say, fairly high-strung, strong sense of self-preservation. I have a decent set of reflexes. I tend to not freak out so much in the moment as make sure that I will not die. And then I'll freak out later when I'm safe. When I'm safe, I'm like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Oh god, adrenaline. But, in the moment, I'm more like, what do I need to do to get out of this mess? So, I rely a little bit on my martial arts training. I haven't had a lot, but some. And, I use my adrenaline, I use my fear, rather than let it use me. Like I say, I can freak out when it's safe. Well, ultimately, I think that the biology of homosexuality is largely irrelevant. Even if it were 100% completely a choice, so what? I mean, shouldn't that be our choice to make? But by the same token, I don't think that it is a choice. I'm pretty sure that it is a biological thing. I think there could be multiple reasons for it. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's some sort of overpopulation defense mechanism. I don't know. But, basically, the biology of homosexuality, completely irrelevant, really. I guess my only real fear is that if they do discover some sort of gay gene or discover what causes homosexuality, I actually doubt it's genetics, but we'll see. I think it's environmental factors in the womb. But in any case, even if they do find a way to prevent it 100%, I'm not sure I'd want to. I mean, think about it this way. Would you want to be the last homosexual left on Earth? Really? 'Cause to me that sounds, lonely and unpleasant. Well, that would be Wendy and Richard Pini. They're the folks who wrote ElfQuest, and I really loved that comic series, at least up until Kings of the Broken Wheel, which would be the third series. But, there was just something about it. They did elves the way I always wanted to see elves. You know, I mean, I never really got into the Tolkien model. I didn't quite like that. And the ElfQuest elves are kind of like, they're almost Tolkien-esque in a way in that they live out in the woods, they shape the trees and nature and all this stuff, but they're more sylvan, they're more nature creatures. They're almost like animals in a way. They're almost like, I don't know, like beasts or something. And there's multiple reasons for that. It's hard to explain. You'd just have to read it. But I mean, ElfQuest was the first time I saw elves done the way I wanted to see them. So that would have to be my favorite comic book writers. I mean, a close second would be Terry Moore, who did Strangers in Paradise. But I'm sorry, ElfQuest wins. Well, it's not like I like Picard all that much. He's not Kirk. You know, if there's any Star Trek captain that I actually genuinely like, it would be Janeway. Even she's a little annoying. I mean, her voice can set my teeth on edge. But as a person, I think she's so much better. Now, I know a lot of people want me to explain the Kirk hatred, but I'm not sure I can. It's just, there's something about him. I hate him. It's kind of the way some people really hate Pauly Shore, or the way some people really hate Carrot Top, or something. It's just, there's something about Kirk that makes me go, this guy doesn't deserve life. This guy's a dick. This guy should not exist. You know, he sets my teeth on edge. That's all I can say. So, it's not that I like Picard, it's that I hate Kirk. I hate to say it, but you weren't very specific in this question, and so I don't know what you're really asking. Are you asking which would I rather be? Which would I rather face in battle? Which would I rather watch? But, fortunately, the answer is the same in all of those cases. Romulans. You see, at least with the Romulans, you have free will. At least with the Romulans, you know, you're not facing this monolithic force that can all act in unity. So, I don't know. I mean, I think I'd prefer the Romulans. Plus, I find the Borg very, I don't know. It's hard to explain exactly. I mean, annoying is not quite the right word, but just watching them, I find myself rolling my eyes a lot. There's just something about the logic of their organization, of who and what they are, that just doesn't sit right with me for some reason. So, yeah, it's gotta be the Romulans. Okay, I could swear I've answered this multiple times, so let's hope this is the last time I have to go over it. Now, all of this is available from Progressive's website, but the basic idea is this. They chose 10 semi-finalists by sending all of those videos to an independent panel of judges. And that's the cut I never made. I never got to the semi-finals with those 10. Now, those initial 10 were then voted on by the users, by pretty much anyone who registered and decided to vote. And that got narrowed down to a final 3, and that final 3 would then be chosen by Progressive. So that's what happened. I just never got past the first round of voting. That's it. Well, you know, as much as I would like magic to be real, it kind of depends on what I can accomplish. I mean, I grew up on Star Wars, you know that, and I would love to have my own personal, spaceship, like an X-Wing or the Millennium Falcon or something. Now, it's entirely possible I could just use magic to generate something that looked a lot like the Falcon or an X-Wing and fly around in that. If magic can get me to space, if magic can get me something like a laser blaster, I would totally take magic. But at the same time, if magic has to be like, I don't know, nature-based or druidic or something, and I'm basically stuck in like a fantasy-style universe because I'm using magic, then fuck that shit. I want my technology. So it really does depend on what it is that I'm accomplishing, what I'm able to accomplish with one or the other. I mean, I would need more information. What style of magic are we talking about here? What style of technology? I mean, if I'm stuck in the 20th or the 21st century in terms of technology, but, magic can allow me to fly under my own power or, shoot lightning bolts out of my fingertips or whatever, it really does depend on the specifics. So, basically that's what it comes down to. Whichever one lets me accomplish my goals is the one I'm going to choose. Well, it really depends on what you mean by cool. I mean, if we're talking cool like Fonzie, if we're talking, hey, or how you doing, basically, I gotta go with a pirate. The pirate is the one who knows how to have a good time, how to, drink and carouse and gamble and just, do all that debaucherous stuff when he's like in port or whatever, So, in that way, a pirate is much cooler than a ninja. But if we're gonna talk about battle, I'm sorry, but the pirate is going down like a 50-cent whore. I mean, that's just all there is to it. The ninja's taking the pirate down, right? And in that way, that's cooler. And the ninjas have those nifty, a ninja's outfit is much cooler than a pirate's. I'm sorry, it just is. And they have better swords, too. So, I don't know. I mean, it really does depend on what you mean by cool. You bet your darn bippy I'd go. Oh, seriously, without a moment's hesitation, there is nothing holding me on this planet. Seriously. And you're basically offering me my dream. So, yeah. Oh, I would so totally go. One caveat, I would like to bring Howie with me if I could. But other than that, yeah, I would jump at this opportunity. Faux show. My first computer was a Radio Shack TRS-80 Color Computer 2. It was a piece of shit, but, well, it was also the early 80s, so that was pretty much all that was available. The first computer I really remember animating on was an Amiga. It was a Commodore Amiga, but it had the video toaster, Nutex video toaster built into it, which also had a very early version of Lightwave 3D built into it. So, yeah, that was like, I want to say the early 90s. Well, I'm pretty much broke, so it'll be a while before I can afford another tattoo. But when I get one, I would like to get a half sleeve of Tron-style circuitry on my right forearm. If my abilities on rollerblades and in flight simulators are any indication, I'll be graceful. Well, mostly because I'm only just now finding out that some of them even exist. But now that I know, I might get involved. We'll see. Ultimately, I suppose it's the former. But mostly I'm just putting ideas out there and hoping they stick. The thing is that a lot of my arguments are, of course, put out there to convince people that one position is correct while another is incorrect. So I guess it would really have to be that I'm trying to reach those who still believe in God, but, haven't quite thought things through properly yet. Brad Bird comes immediately to mind. I mean, I remember him back in the 80s with this thing called The Family Dog, and that was hilariously funny. And, then I saw him again later with The Iron Giant, great movie. And now we all know him from Pixar fame. I mean, he did The Incredibles, and he did, Ratatouille. So, yeah, Brad Bird comes to mind. And then we've also got people like, Wendy and Richard Pini, the authors and artists of ElfQuest, never really did a lot of animation work. I can only think of one actual example, but in terms of art style, they were definitely big influences right there. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, certainly there are cartoon shows, and I've mentioned some of them earlier, that I'm very much a fan of, and they've influenced me as well. But I think Brad Bird is probably the first that comes to mind. I mean, okay, sure, there's, Chuck Jones and the Looney Tunes crowd, but most of what I do is not quite so, Looney Tunes-esque. I'm kind of more going for an anime or a manga style in terms of animation a lot of the time. I mean, not completely, I mean, by no means am I like a mega anime fan. I'm no otaku over here. I used to be a much bigger fan than I am now. So there's definitely some influence there, but, I don't know. I mean, it's not as influential as it used to be. I'm trying to come up with other names for you, but nothing's leaping immediately to mind. All I can say is that, Brad Bird and those other folks. So yeah. Well, that was a bit of a marathon, wasn't it? To those of you who stuck around for the whole thing, I'm sorry. But, perhaps I'll do another one of these in the next 1,000. Maybe not. It was a lot of work. We'll see. So, have fun. Don't do anyone I wouldn't do.